don't pick that life picked you. Welcome to Sit Down News, and before I begin, I'd like to mention our sponsor. Ratchet is a clothing company from the UK started by a young man with a vision, a dream, and determination. They have various prints and styles for men, women, and children. I'll include a link to their website down below in the description for this video. Ancient Rome was an historical period that fascinates many. For the historians out there, you should be familiar with the word vomitorium. Allegedly, the Romans vomited to make room for delicious food served at feasts. This is debatable among historians as to whether or not this is factual. Which brings us to the following story, one that speaks about modern-day Romans. Well, that is if their bloodline can be traced as far back as ancient Rome, but for argument's sake, we'll just call them the Gambino family. In order to keep things in sequence, I'll give a brief description of what transpired first. Although I have a video describing the story, here's a little background. At the time that both these stories took place, I was in prison. Now, my cousin Louie Lazzinarro was with John Gotti Jr., but in 1999, John Jr. also went to prison for racketeering. His uncle Pete Gotti was put in the acting boss position, and as an associate, Louie was expected to be on call if he was ever needed for anything. Sometime in 2000, Pete did contact Louie and tell him that he needed him to come with him to take a trip. Pete was going up to visit his brother John Gotti in Marion, Illinois. While they were up there, after one of the visits, John Gotti's daughter Victoria wanted to go to the movies. Pete told my cousin that he wanted him to escort his niece to the movies. According to my cousin, he said he really didn't want to go, but he had to go. Now let me stop the story for a minute. It's been brought to my attention that certain members of the Gotti clan have said that I'm lying about what took place in this story. In my previous video, I did state that there were two adults that went to the movies, no harm done. If there were also other people who went with them, I have no idea. I'm only relaying the story that was told to me. If there are any discrepancies in the story, I suggest people go speak to Frankie Radici, who's a Gambino member, because that's who told me one night while we were in Vetro in Howard Beach. And the story that Frankie did tell me was confirmed by my cousin Louie. So I'll leave this up to the intelligent viewers as to whether or not I'm a liar or not. So to continue, when the trip was over with, news of Louie accompanying Victoria to the movies got back to her husband. She was married to Carmine Agnello, who was a Gambino captain at the time. And although the marriage was shaky at that point, he was not happy about this news. So Carmine Bull called for Louie to meet him in his junkyard one day. And when Louie showed up, Carmine Bull hit him with a baseball bat and broke his arm. But the story doesn't end there, because Carmine had further revenge on his mind, and we'll get to that now. 2 days after the baseball bat incident, Carmine and a crew of guys headed to Spolini's, my family's restaurant in Queens. The relationship is Sergio, the owner, is married to my aunt. Presently, they solely own the restaurant, but back then, this story took place when my cousin Louie was a partner. In 2013, after I was inducted into the Lucchese family, I was in Spolini's one night talking with Sergio. I told him what I heard about Carmine Bull breaking Louie's arm. He also confirmed this was true. Sergio told me, "You don't know what happened 2 days later." Before I get into that, let me say that during the time my cousin had his arm broken, Spolini's was a restaurant everybody went to. Actors, athletes, and wise guys. Sergio said Carmine Bull came in with a crew of guys, which wasn't unusual. He said he knew something was wrong when they began to order. The table ordered appetizers, but they ordered a dozen of each. As Sergio was explaining the story, the waiter George, who served Carmine Bull's table that night, chimed in. "John, I couldn't believe how much food and drinks they were ordering. I told Sergio that night, something's not right." Sergio said they were ordering bottles of wine and drinks. He said there wasn't even no room left on the table to fit all the food. Then he said he watched as guys would run outside the restaurant, vomit, and come back in and eat more. He said this went on all night as they kept ordering more food and drinks. George the waiter said he asked Sergio that night what he should do about a check for their table. Sergio told him don't even bother making one out. At some point, they all got up and walked out of the restaurant. Sergio, who speaks broken English, said, The piece of shit no even X about a check. And poor George, the waiter who had to deal with these guys all night, was left no tip. I know exactly what Carmine Bull was doing by going in a restaurant like that. It was a further fuck you for Louie. But in reality, that disrespect not only was aimed at Louie, it was a message to John Jr. as well. When all was said and done, I guess Carmine Bull had no trust in his wife, because from what I heard, absolutely nothing inappropriate went on between Louie and her. If you enjoyed this video, you can hit the like button if you want. You can subscribe to the Sit Down News blog at sitdownnews.com, and I appreciate everyone who has subscribed. Thank you. Well, just another example in the mob you never knew about. Hope you enjoyed the story. If you would like to subscribe to this channel, you could do so down below. If you would like to subscribe to my other channel, Unlimited Substance Podcast, I'll add a link in the description for this video.